Up next, I'm going to invite our next speaker for the next session. Mr. Jay Bavisi, the award-winning founder and CEO of EC Council Group, will share his insights on AI and the cybersecurity revolution, navigating defenses in the age of rapid innovation. Everyone, please join me in welcoming Mr. Jay.
Good morning, everyone. Thank you very much for inviting me here, beautiful city of Bangkok. And I'm here to talk to you about AI and the cybersecurity revolution. We're dealing with a lot of innovation as cybersecurity professionals. This is a very unique time for us because the speed of innovation seems to be going far ahead than what we are able to do as an industry to be able to play catch up. So let me take you back and let's take a historical perspective of where we really are. So I founded EC Council in 2001, right? You might be well aware of Certified Ethical Hacker as a credential. At that time, when we talked about cybersecurity, the biggest problem that somebody could tell me was about something called a worm or a virus. Wow, your organization has got infested with a virus. That's terrible. And the countermeasure was, oh, don't worry, I have antivirus. Great stuff, great job, right? Fantastic security. Try using that same standard today. And everyone's going to say, ha, really? Okay. Then we move forward, right? 10 years actually moved on. And what do we see? Oh, networks started coming. So the industry from desktop computing started becoming network computing. Now we started seeing distributed denial of service. We're seeing shutdown, takedowns. Wow, that was terrible. And what did we invent? We invented the firewall, right? Oh, now I have antivirus, I also have firewall. Well, the attack industry moved on. We started building, far more exploits. And the industry kept on moving and moving and moving. And now we said, okay, we're going to build intrusion detection, the intrusion prevention systems. So we evolved, but the bad guys was always one step ahead. The bad guys was always causing problems, and then the industry was, okay, we got to respond to that threat. Then came 2010, and we started finding APTs, big deal, right? I mean, everyone's really up in arms, and we are worried. Industry reacted again. Now we came up with EDRs. Now, of course, XDRs. What happened to us? Well, we started with desktop. We went to network. We could barely understand network. We started cloud. Virtualization came on. We kind of figured out how to deal with cloud. We didn't really have the people. We trained some. Some are still catching up on networking. And before we could deal with cloud, we now had blockchain. Before we could deal with blockchain, we're now dealing with AI. So the innovation of the industry is moving at a rapid pace, but the professionals that we're trying to produce are not able to catch up. So when APTs came up, we came up with EDR, then we came up with AI. The bad guys were the first to say, hey, we have got AI. There's a lot of cool stuff we can do, because remember those phishing campaigns when you get emails that were kind of misspelled, the logo is kind of blurred, you can't really figure it out. But guess what? Now the bad guys have figured out, we use AI, and with a very high level of precision, they're able to do phishing attacks in multi-languages. So now my ability to get into your organization using AI, using phishing campaigns, using deepfakes is higher than ever. But the good guys will have to go and respond to it. So what do? We build AI-based systems to defend our organizations, right? We're kind of figuring that out still. We still are building professionals at a networking layer. We're still building incident responders. We're still building threat hunters. But the criminal industry has moved forward. They're already using AI against us. And what's coming next? Well, what's going to come next is going to be how are we going to use an automated attack platform against the organization. And the way the industry will have to respond is we're going to need to be able to build systems using AI that will actually have automated protection, which means you're going to use predictive analysis to be able to solve a problem before you even get there. So let's talk about the AI-powered cyber threat world that we're talking about right now, right? The speaker before me from CrowdStrike, I mean, he's already mentioned, right? We're talking about 2 minutes and 7 seconds, if I'm correct. That's the that's the time when a new vulnerability is actually thrown out. Criminals are already using AI. We're kind of figuring out how are we going to do it. The responses of phishing email is going much higher, but now we as an industry will have to move from manual to machine-driven responses. Well, how do we do that as an industry, right? Because on one hand, you have Robocop, full machine. On the other hand, you have Iron Man, half man, half machine. So there's some out there that think, oh, AI will solve the entire thing. You know, you're going to buy this magic box, you're going to press the button, and then all of the good guys can go to sleep, and we're going to be protected. Ain't going to happen. Human beings are going to be required at an even more elevated level. But it is my prediction, and I'll talk a little bit more about this, skills as we see it today is going to be depleted. Because all of the low-level, low-hanging fruit, what we used to build as cybersecurity professionals' core skills will now be automated, which means professionals will have to elevate their skill to a different level to be able to match the innovation and the speed and the rigor of the attack that we are facing and the platforms that we are using to defend ourselves. Now, let's take a look at another industry that has kind of gone through a very similar process. And I thought the medical industry will be a fantastic metaphor, right? To be able to explain what's happening in that industry, what's happening in our industry, right? If you look at the 1900s, right, X-ray was like the thing, high tech. You got a problem, yeah, just get to this doctor, they have a huge machine that makes funny sounds, and now I can tell you have pneumonia, right? But that did not move on, right? They innovated, and they say, okay, now if you have really bad situations, you might need a lung transplant or you might need a heart transplant. And now, between 50s and 70s, organ transplants was already a very common thing that was already doing. And this is actually them using very invasive methods of getting in. In 1980s to 90s, they already built the MRI. The MRI can actually cut a single image by hundreds of layers. So you're talking about really thin microns, and we are able to look at the organ right at the bottom end, right? This is the use of automation for the benefit of the medical industry. By 2000, they already determined that actually we can now use Robocop, right? Yeah, we have doctors, they're good. I mean, yeah, they know where the heart is, where the lung is, the kidney is, they understand it. But robotic surgery is far better than a human hand. You guys see a correlation with our industry in cybersecurity as well? Because now they are able to use machine to be able to solve some of the most complex problems that human hands could not solve. And 2010, 2020, they're all using AI diagnostics. Let me tell you a story about AI diagnostic. So I have a friend, medical doctor, graduated from Yale. He's a radiologist. And what a radiologist does, they examine X-rays and they examine MRIs, and they're able to write a report and tell you what the problem is. Now, it's a very manual and laborious process, and this guy is trained in Yale, right, US doctor, and all of the US hospitals, you guys know what litigation is like, so they need to ensure that they have a very rapid movement to be able to analyze this. What he did, this is a medical doctor, he built an AI system to be able to scan MRIs and to be able to predict what the potential disease or the ailment is. All right? His company valuation flew through the roof, and he started hiring radiologists to just verify what the AI system said. And they go like, yep, okay, pneumonia, look up. Yep, pneumonia, stamp, next, next. And automation came up. This is the Iron Man I'm talking about. Now take a look at our industry, right? Very, very similar. I've already told you about antiviruses. I've already told you about IDSs. I've already told you about advanced threat protection. Where I think the industry is going to move forward, number one, is we're going to move to a very high level of automation. Now, my specific area and my specific life has been devoted to the creation of ethical hackers, right? That's what I've done. But what I predict will happen will be ethical hackers as we see it today will go away. Ethical hackers will have to upskill themselves, and they will have to do work at an entirely different level because automation is going to start taking over, and all of the rudimentary things that we were doing will now be automated. And what I think the industry is going to move forward is not just that we are going to be able to do AI-based pen testing. We are actually going to move to an industry where on finding vulnerabilities, you're going to be able to do predictive solutioning, which means you're going to be able to remediate. So just think of a system, a platform that is going to be able to, do an entire, 5 phases of ethical hacking. So it does the scanning, right? It does the enumeration, right? It does the exploitation, and then it identifies the actual patch that's required. And now with the click of a button, you'll be able to press, and all of your logs can turn positive because you're going to be able to remediate the problems that you find. And we all know we're doing it thousands of logs, humanly impossible. This is an era that I think we're going to be dealing with. So let's dive a little bit deep into AI. So 2024, EC Council ran the CEH threat report. And what we did, excuse me, is we went to the pen testers in the front line and we asked them, tell me, what are you seeing? And these were people at the front lines of these were the people that were dealing with national defense systems. These were people working at financial institutions all across the world in 174 countries. And what came back was quite shocking, because what came back was a resounding fact that they are clearly identifying attacks that they've never seen before. The attacks are such that they are probably AI-based, and that they are not able to respond to these attacks with the speed and the rigor that's required. So once again, the bad guys was ahead, the good guys were lagging behind. And that led us, and I think the biggest point was that 83% of them said that they note a tangible alteration in attack methodologies. What they've seen forever, they're seeing that there's a shift as AI is coming up. So the question for you in your organization is, how many of your defenders, whether they are the ethical hackers, whether they are the incident responders, whether they are the SOC L1, L2, whether they are digital forensics professionals, how many of them are well versed in using AI to bring better result to defend your organization? I think that's one question that you need to ask yourself, and are they prepared for it? Now, we all know that AI brings a tremendous amount of efficiency. I think one of the biggest data that I thought was really great was this report that came from IBM, actually, that said normally it took 212 days for a professional, a trained professional, to be able to identify, extract, and analyze a piece of data so that you're able to remediate, and which is something that you can now do in minutes. So the point is this: the world's largest economy is the United States of America. The second largest economy of the world is, anyone? China, that's right. The third largest, Japan. Used to be, is now fourth. You know which is the third largest industry? Third largest economy in the world, the cybercrime economy. If cybercrime was a nation, it would be the third largest economy. And you can see that the cybercrime cost of $10.5 trillion, if you look at the CAGR, it's growing exponentially. So for us in cybersecurity industry, I guess, this data points in our favor. I think all of us will be in jobs. We have a lot of work to do ahead, but this is not good for the entire world at large per se. So we got to do much better being able to deal with this, because the attacks are coming. So now, how do we deal with reactive versus predictive cybersecurity? Because right now we are very reactive. We wait for a problem to happen, and we kind of wait for a problem to happen, and then the industry builds a solution, and then we go and we try to implement a solution. Takes us years and years to implement a solution. By that time, the cybercrime industry has moved on to the next level. We need to move ahead, and we need to be able to predict where the next attack vector is. We need to be able to predict where the next vulnerability is going to be. We need to be able to resolve these vulnerabilities that can be exploited. So how do we get there? Well, by 2030, AI is going to be so deeply embedded. I mean, just take a look at the booths out here, right? Go take a walk out there, and you're going to be able to identify that almost every vendor is going to say, yeah, we have got AI embedded inside. Now, it's up to you to be able to evaluate what do they mean by AI and how deep it is. Is it really LLM-based AI that they're using, or is this something else that they're building? That's another thing. Now, just the speaker before me from CrowdStrike mentioned that the time, right, for a vulnerability that is going to be exploited is 2 minutes and 7 seconds. Okay? Our data, equally bad, it says that generally the time for exploitation used to be about 63 days. It's now dropped to 3 days. CrowdStrike says 2 minutes and 7 seconds. It doesn't matter. Either way, it's shifting in the right direction, right? Which is wrong, which is the problem. But how often do organizations do a pen test? So I'll give you a real problem of just so that you understand where I'm going, right? From predictive to reactive, right? From reactive to predictive. Most organizations do a pen test once a year. Some in the financial industry, once a quarter. Now you ask them, okay, what percentage of your attack surface do you actually pen test? They'll say, well, it's based on risk. My risk is on the following areas, so these are the assets that I'm going to be pen testing it because I have a budget. We can't do 100% of the organization, right? So if you think of a vector, you have a problem because you're doing it once a year, but a vulnerability is published every 63 days, now every 3 days, and according to CrowdStrike, 2 minutes, 7 seconds. But you're doing it once a year. So I have a problem of scale. 2, you're only doing a percentage of your organization. So now that's which you think is the highest risk. But then you're leaving, and by the way, the industry data is about 20 to 30% is the max that people do. You are leaving around 70% wide open. And out of the pen test report that comes up, you get thousands of vulnerability for a large organization. You're not able to fix them because you don't have the people. So we're dealing with a massive problem, right? So where the industry is moving forward, and we're already seeing this coming, I recently got to see a technology of a startup which was amazing. What it does is it does automated pen testing. It does an attack surface management, and then they're able to do an automated pen testing 365 days a year using attack trees, right? And you all know Bruce Schneier is one of the foremost security guru, and he's one of the advisors for this company. And it was amazing being able to see how an AI-based system is going to be able to replicate what a normal human being would do in an automated fashion. But what is lacking, what needs to come forward is, okay, don't tell me about the problems because I get lots of problems from all the pen test reports that I get. How do I fix them? Because I've got thousands and thousands of alerts that are coming out. So where the industry needs to move forward is where systems like this is going to be able to integrate and be able to remediate. So imagine if you're able to click a button and it starts patching your systems. That is, I think, where the industry needs to move. So with the limited time, I'm just going to move on. So let's talk about skill gap, right? Because at the end of the day, I talked about Robocop, I talked about Iron Man. The bottom line is the people across the world that we're talking about, industries are facing shortages, right, of the right people. We don't have shortage of people. We have shortage of the right people, those with the hands-on skills, those with the ability of being able to understand how to actually read the data that's coming out, how to be able to communicate with teams, how to be able to actually deal with the exploits that are out, those that have a very curious mind that are able to learn and able to move forward. That's the people that is absolutely lacking. And the shortage of the professionals is going higher and higher and higher. So organizations need to invest in being able to train and build skills for their organization. Every organization is different. Every organization has a different need. And certifications and training is definitely one way to move forward. But top 3 skills that we are seeing from enterprise customers around the world where the highest amount of shortage, number 1 is cloud. Most CISOs that I talk to and I say, what's your number 1 problem as far as skill is concerned? And they'll say, Jay, no question, hands down, cloud. I need people who understand cloud security because our organization is rapidly using cloud. And we don't have the people that are able to deal with it. We can barely deal with the network side of the organization. And I have got a tremendous amount of pressure to move to the cloud for all of the advantages that I have. I just don't have the people. So what do? I outsource. And when I outsource, I lose control. Because now I'm not sure the kind of people that the vendor has. Of course, they will show me 4 profiles that are great, but the actual people that do the work will be 20 that are interns, and that's really the industry problem. Second, obviously, is ethical hacking and threat intelligence, because I think pen testing is not going to go anywhere, although there's going to be a massive shift, because the pen testers today, what they do as called scanning will now be automated. When they're doing exploitation, can be automated. So everything that can be automated will be automated. But when eventually it's automated, who is going to read the reports? Who is going to make the call that is this a false positive or not? It's going to be a trained eye. It's going to be a trained individual. So if your ethical hackers and pen testers are not trained with the usage of AI for exploitation of your organization, you ought to seriously think about that. And the third is obviously compliance and risk management. The position of a CISO is one that is of hotbed, right? You can see the reports out there that when a company gets a breach, the CISO gets fired. But that's one individual. So the thinking that we need to have as an industry is not just of a CISO, but of the office of the CISO. Think of the President of the United States, for example, right? But that's one individual supported by an entire office. That's why they say the office of the President of the United States. The CISO needs to have an office of the CISO as well, because the CISO has a lot of roles. They have got roles in dealing with detection, they have roles in dealing with identification, they have roles in dealing with compliance, they have roles in dealing with governance, they have role of communicating, they have project management, they have budgetary issues, talking of internal stakeholders, external stakeholders. There's a tremendous amount of responsibility. So third is compliance and risk management. More and more organizations are investing in being able to train the office of the CISO, which means there's a group of individuals that are actually working with the Chief Information Security. So one of the most emerging trend that's coming up across the world right now, and we are seeing this, is the focus on hands-on, skills-based certifications. And to those of you that know, after the threat report came out, CEH, we launched CEH version 12, and for the first time in the world, we embedded AI inside to be able to train ethical hackers how to utilize AI in being able to do a penetration test. What we are seeing in the industry right now is more and more organizations are coming up and saying, sure, absolutely, we want people that have the hands-on skills, but we want micro-skill development. Because I have a team, I cannot take a team off the chair forever. The problems that the industry is facing is this. Just think of the cybersecurity organization as a bus. Now, in a bus, you have 40 seats. In a cybersecurity team, you have 40 seats. Normally, you will have about 20, 25 seats filled. There are 15 seats that are empty because shortage of talent. Out of the 25 seats that are filled, there are a couple of people that are going to move seats because they are being poached by other organizations. So they're not there for you all the time. They're there, but there's a possibility that those seats might become empty. Out of the balance that you have, say 20 of them, organizations are unable to identify if they are fit for that seat. Sure, you hired them 1 year, 2 years, 3 years, 4 years ago, but are they able to do your job, your role? Are they able to implement the TTPs that your organization requires them to do effectively to secure your organization? That testing is not happening because organizations have budgetary constraint, and larger than that, they have time constraint. They're not able to take these professionals and say, go back and relearn. And while that's happening in skill, you're seeing the entire surface change. You are seeing new innovations coming. So I'm sorry to reveal bleak news to you, but this is actually the environment that we work with. And this is why it's very important to have a skills-based framework, making sure that organizations have licenses of automated platforms that are able to train people on the job. And that's exactly the direction that we're going. And that's why when we ran a survey after we did Certified Ethical Hacker and we implemented AI, the survey shows clearly that 95% of them said that the knowledge gain was able to address AI-based threat that is happening. And that is actually the industry that we're dealing with. That's the direction that we're going with. In summary, folks, AI is coming. We need to be better prepared. We're still dealing with networking. We're still dealing with cloud. We're still dealing with threat intelligence. We're still dealing with incident response, right? A lot of SOCs that you'd visit and I would visit, you would see the L1 and L2, can do much better because shortage of human capability. but AI is now being used as an attack vector against organizations, and now we need to use AI to defend. But the thing that we got to think about as the industry is how do we use AI to be able to do predictive defense? With that, ladies and gentlemen, thank you very much for inviting me. It's a pleasure to be here. You can reach me on LinkedIn or EC Council. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Jay Bavisi from EC Council. Please take a moment to scan the QR code appearing on the screen to share your feedback with us. Your feedback is truly valuable for us to improve our future events. Before we move on to the next session, let me wrap that up in Thai very quickly. คุณเจนะคะได้เล่าให้ฟังถึงวิวัฒนาการนะคะของ Cybersecurity ค่ะว่าตั้งแต่ปี 2010 นะคะมาจนถึงปัจจุบันและอนาคตจะเกิดอะไรขึ้นบ้างนะคะไม่ว่าจะเป็นเรื่อง APTs นะคะมาจนถึง AI driven ค่ะและ predictive analysis และ autonomous defense นะคะโดยที่คุณเจค่ะได้เล่าให้ฟังด้วยนะคะว่าคนร้ายนะคะหรือว่า villain เนี่ยก็เพิ่มขึ้นนะคะที่จะมาattack นะคะทางด้าน Cybersecurity ค่ะและเขานะคะก็ยังมีเทคโนโลยีนะคะที่ทำให้เขาก้าวเร็วขึ้นไปด้วยนะคะด้วยเทคโนโลยีใหม่ๆค่ะนอกจากนั้นนะคะคุณเจได้มีการเปรียบเทียบนะคะการวิวัฒนาการของอุตสาหกรรมการแพทย์ค่ะว่ามีความคล้ายคลึงกับCybersecurity นะคะโดยเริ่มจากการมีแอนตี้ไวรัสนะคะไปจนถึงการป้องกันนะคะและการใช้ AI และ predictive autonomous defense นั่นเองค่ะหลังจากนั้นนะคะแล้วก็คุณเจได้เล่าถึง reactive นะคะและ predictive ค่ะว่าเรานะคะในฐานะผู้ที่ดูแลในเรื่องของการป้องกันไซเบอร์เนี่ยจะสามารถรับมือได้อย่างไรบ้างนะคะและ AI จะมีส่วนช่วยเป็นอย่างมากเลยนะคะในเรื่องการป้องกันทางไซเบอร์ในปัจจุบันและอนาคตค่ะสุดท้ายนะคะจบด้วยเรื่องของบุคลากรค่ะว่าปัจจุบันบุคลากรเนี่ยที่มีความเหมาะสมและเข้าใจอาจจะยังต้องการอยู่มากนะคะในอุตสาหกรรมนี้ค่ะเพราะฉะนั้นการรีสกิลและอัพสกิลเป็นสิ่งสำคัญมากๆเลยค่ะ